because I do 1,300 crunches and sit-ups 4 times a week.
What's a dose? Can you translate for us?
Winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Ernie Els.
All right, welcome to The Goat Track, the podcast about golf and golf-adjacent things. I am Jacques de Villiers, standing in for Mr. Teabag Elliott today. Gents and ladies and whoever else listens, so you identify, we are talking golf etiquette today, and particularly maybe a bit more South African-related etiquette. We've got a 3-ball with a member guest joining us today. But I'll get to him. We've got Mr. Carl Hoffman. How's it, Carl?
Hello, JDV. Nice to be back.
Hoff, I know that you are quite relaxed on the golf course, but I imagine there are some etiquette aspects that irk you, which we can get to, and I'm sure you're going to cook on some of those. We've also got Mr. Fuad Davids, who's joining us. First appearance on the GOAT track. There's a specific reason we've got Fuad, but before I tell you that, Fuad, how's it going today?
Yeah, thanks, gents. Lekker to be here.
So, Fuad, we've got you here. I don't want to say you new to golf, because I think you've been playing for a while, but just to give the listeners a bit of a bio of your golfing stature and ability. Fuad is a 20. What's your index?
So index is 24.
So 24. So you're probably playing about 30, 27. You're playing a 27 at Cotswold, but
No, so Cotswold is a 30 at the moment, and then at Camelot I played a 27. So it's normally between 25 and 30.
Okay. So the other thing, Fuad, that handicap is coming down substantially. But that's why I wanted you to come onto this podcast now, because you probably have been playing sort of, I want to say competitive golf. What I mean by that is you're playing competitions, club competitions, be that the knockouts or the Saturday morning comps or whatever. So it's a bit more serious than going out on a Sunday evening with mates and having a hit around in Worcester. So I wanted just to get your so just to give everyone an idea, Hoff and I have seen a bit of the agenda. Fuad is coming in completely blind. Hoff, I said to you when we started this, and I said I wanted to get Fuad in on the Etiquette podcast. We've had a couple of run-ins with Fuad's etiquette, which is completely excusable. I don't think you'd been told much of the things that are pretty unknown unless you play with guys and they tell you. But the one thing I did say to him when we were sort of discussing what we were going to chat about on the Etiquette Pod was raking of bunkers. And I said, I feel like people don't rake bunkers anymore after COVID. So Fuad said, I rake the bunkers, but I'm still not sure if I'm doing it properly. And I said, what do you mean by that? He's like, well, are you meant to rake your footprints as well? So this is what we're dealing with. But yeah, Hoff, I mean, what's your biggest sort of etiquette pet peeve that you come across? And I think that might maybe get the ball rolling. I've sort of split it into 4 categories in etiquette here. Course maintenance etiquette, distractions of other golfers, etiquette in terms of protecting the field during competitions, and the last one is sort of gamesmanship etiquette, the gimme putts and that sort of thing. But Hoff, I mean, in those general categories, what's your biggest pet peeve for etiquette?
I'm not too big on etiquette, to be honest, as long as the guy that you're playing with is not a blatant asshole and he's doing it on purpose. I don't think Fuad, for the record, fits into that category, although when you say we've had a few run-ins with etiquette, we have reminded Fuad of certain things on the golf course, and he's responded quite defensively to those run-ins. But I'm not a huge on etiquette. I think if I had to pick one, it would probably be slow play. I think slow play is a problem for everyone, and you end up getting shat on by the marshal for your own slow play if it's you or someone in front of you. So that's probably the biggest one. And then I think sort of pitch marks and that kind of stuff. It's very frustrating, especially at a course like Cotswold, which gets quite a lot of visitors, or some of the holiday courses that you play like Champagne Sports, where guys never fix their pitch marks, which I think is pretty inexcusable, irrespective of whether you've played before or not. So that's probably the two biggest from my side.
Yeah, I think especially because it impacts your playing experience in a course. If someone doesn't fix a pitch mark, or if there's massive divots in the fairway, or the bunkers haven't been raked, you're like, hang on, this oak's actually not even playing in my 4-ball, and now I'm being affected by someone's bad behavior.
But also slow play. I mean, you're getting the marshal coming and saying, you guys are behind, and if it is someone in your 4-ball, it's pretty embarrassing. And if it's not someone in your 4-ball and it's ahead of you, it's pretty annoying.
Pretty frustrating, yeah.
And especially, and I'm sure Fuad will come in here as a, I mean, you're not a new golfer anymore, Fuad, but your newness is not far around the corner. And I remember playing as a teenager as well, where you're constantly being pushed and you feel like, what am I doing here? Like, it's not even fun anymore because everyone's just pushing me all the time. So I think that's, in general, if you watch golf, it's not a problem. That's just, for us, every Saturday or Sunday, it's a general problem across the board when it comes to professional golf as well.
Fuad, I mean, what for you has been the most surprising sort of etiquette thing that you've come across in these last sort of year and a half?
Everything, basically. I mean, just to Hoff's point about slow play and pace of play, I mean, I never know, like at the particular course I play, I never know what the speed is, because, I mean, I played at Cotswold the one day on my own just to clear my head a bit, and there were 2 lighties like behind me, and they were just, I think I was on my 3rd shot, they were just hitting the ball randomly into me. So I thought, you know what, it's fine, I'll let you through, and proceeded to let them through on the first. On the second, I had to wait 10 minutes for them to play their shots, because I don't know if they were filming content or what they were doing, but clearly pace of play was not.
Well, I think we're going to have to scour YouTube to find that content of them standing on the box saying, let's see what this oak's reaction is when we hit into him.
and I mean, also like pitch marks. I always wondered, because I mean, when I started playing, I never had a pitch repair, and I saw you, like the first few times playing with you, like eventually when I got into the green, like you went to where my ball like hopped, let's call it up, because that's what I thought it is, and fix it. I didn't understand what it is, and then after a few months I realized what you guys were doing. I mean, at the time I didn't really know how to repair it. Only now I have a slight idea.
I thought you were going to say you didn't repair any pitch marks at the beginning because you weren't hitting the greens.
Look, when I eventually got onto the green, I didn't repair it because, number one, I didn't know how to, and number two, I didn't own a pitch repairer. So look, I think let's address this, because I thought it was a very interesting aspect of golf. So if you go canoeing, or you get a license, a proficiency license to canoe. Hoffman, I know in your native land, Germany, you have to actually get a license to play golf. So you have to go to the driving range with the Club Pro or whatever, you get your membership or whatever the case is. But on certain courses, you actually can't play those courses in Germany unless you have passed your proficiency test. And I imagine that's where they look at things like teach you how to, rake a bunker, or fix a pitch mark, or, where to sand, etc. Which, let's be honest, is pretty foreign if no one's ever told you what to do. I mean, what do you... I suppose on the one hand, I look at it and say that's a good idea. And on the other hand, I'm like, you're just putting up another barrier of entry to golf.
Yeah, I think it's got to be probably somewhere in between. And I don't know what that in between is. But to the barrier to entry, I think it's probably the biggest barrier to entry to do that. It's already a tough game to get into. It's already an expensive game to get into in terms of green fees, buying clubs, having clubs. Now you're saying to someone, listen, go and spend all of this money on clubs. I suppose you could hire them or whatever and get your proficiency. I think it would be quite a big barrier to entry. That being said, on the other side of the coin, it would be great, because people would know not to walk in lines, or how giving putts or noise or drinking or whatever the case may be. They would know all of those rules. But I mean, that's a very German thing to do, isn't it? And I think if you look at the popularity of golf in Germany, I think you'd be shocked at it's not the most popular sport, and it's seen very much as a rich person's or wealthy person's sport. So that gives you an inkling of what that's done to golf in Germany in terms of being a barrier to entry.
Fuad, I mean, would you have taken up an opportunity like that if it was given to you to say, look, there's a half a day, or you play one round with a pro, but I suppose you play with your mates that play a lot of golf. But I suppose I'm thinking, if you don't have, you really want to play golf, but you don't have, a 4-ball, and you don't want to be that oak who doesn't know the etiquette, joins a random 4-ball on a Saturday, and then the guys are like, I never want to play with that oak again. He basically talked through my backswing the whole way, he didn't fix the pitch mark, didn't rake any of the bunkers, and without even knowing you've done anything wrong, guys are like, I don't want to play with you. And it's also a bit awkward. The guys aren't going to say to you, I don't want to play with you because, you didn't do X, Y, and Z. They're just going to be like asking other people first or just not asking you again.
Well, I mean, to jump in there, I remember playing with you in some of the early days of your golfing journey, Fuad, and mentioning a few of these things. And it's going to be interesting to get your take on it, because I remember you saying to me on things like walking through someone's putting line, which you were pretty notorious at, or asking for putts and all that kind of stuff. And you said to me, but what difference does it make? And on one side of the coin, I completely agree with you. It is like what difference does it make? But I remember saying to you, where it does become a challenge is where you're playing with, to your point, Jacques, playing with someone that you don't know, or playing in competition scenarios, or a competition.
Someone's going to call penalties on you.
Someone's going to call penalties. Someone's going to be a dickhead to you because you've done that or not done that or whatever. Especially the older people in the game who are such sticklers. And again, it's like a grey thing, because some of them are ridiculous, let's be honest, and some of them are needed. And I think the ones that are needed are specifically to protect the golf course itself and everyone else having a good time. But for the most part, some of them are pretty ridiculous. I mean, what's your take?
No, it's exactly that. I've seen, like, playing with some of the older guys, like they stickler for rules. I mean, a simple example. The one day we played in I think it was Club Champs, and I marked my ball. I made the mistake of putting the marker in front of the ball and not at the back of the ball. But what I then did is I actually pushed back the ball and the marker, because I realized the mistake I made. And then I was actually so flustered, because I remember Jacques telling me one time, like, once you take the marker away, you can't move your ball anymore. Now, like, my head's just spinning, because I mean, what am I doing now? And then the guy came to me and said afterwards, just listen, next time just put the marker behind the ball. And I said to him, I mean, I didn't try to cheat or anything. I mean, I still proceeded to 2 or 3 putt eventually. So it didn't really make a difference where I put the marker. But I've experienced all of the above, where you guys have said to me, listen, just with us it's fine, but when it comes to a competition or when you play with other guys, and at Cotswold that's happened. I mean, there were 2 times. I think once I lost my ball in the fairway, where I didn't know the local rule. You could just get a free drop because it plugged. And in the second time, I think it was on the par 3, the 5th at Cotswold, where my ball got stuck in the bank, and I didn't know the rule. I hit the provisional from the drop zone, and the guy actually came to me and said, listen, if you find this ball, you're going to play it. Doesn't matter where it is. And because I didn't know the rule, I just said, no, I'm not looking for that ball anymore. I'm playing the one that's on the green. So I've had many run-ins with that, where I just thought guys really, like, I understand a competition setting, but sometimes when it's just social play, even like just a normal Saturday competition, I don't see the point. But I mean, again, that's just me.
Look, it was pretty, I suppose, a bit lenient if you had sort of misplaced your ball on the green during Club Champs and the guy just sort of reminded you. I think that's probably the nicest way he probably could have done it in that situation. I mean, bearing in mind that you were like in it to win it in that division. Let's just quickly, okay, so we've pretty much covered the course maintenance stuff. I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to add on. Fixing pitch marks, I think we've covered. Walking in lines. I mean, I sometimes have an issue with I understand the walking in lines if you've got soft greens, but often I'm like, the guys have walked in like around the hole about, 5 groups ahead of you. So that's what, 20 oaks have all walked around the hole, and now you're worried about someone who's like, you might be in your line or not. So, I mean, you understand if you've got big spark marks and the rest of it in your line, that makes sense. But I also think maybe walking in lines, people make a bit more of a deal of it than it should sometimes, especially on hard, firm greens and you at the back of a field. I think that's my aspects on that.
I think that one's more of just an entrenched etiquette rather than, and probably to the days of golf shoes that had those big sparks.
Yes.
I mean, I think, as you said, today it doesn't have that much of an effect, but it's more of like a nod to those days to be like, listen, it's just the right thing to do. Don't walk on my line. But I agree. I mean, I've said it to you, Fuad, even when we took that, I was like, look, I don't give a shit, to be honest.
But other people really care about it.
Exactly. And you're going to get some 8-year-old, even in a normal game, not a competition setting, that's going to go, this is unacceptable, and have a go at you. Because let's be honest, there are plenty of these kinds of people in golf.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, just Jacques, sorry to just jump into Hoff's point. I mean, it sometimes confuses me when I'm on the green and there's like 4 or 5 markers on the green. I don't know which way to go to get to my ball. Like, I end up just standing next to the green, letting a few guys putt, and then eventually I can get to my ball, because I've played in a random 4 ball on a Saturday before, where there were 3 markers around where my marker was, and I honestly didn't know how to get to my ball. I just stood there.
Like basically like a rat stuck in a maze, being like, I actually don't know which way to go yet. So I mean that's the walking in lines. Divots, you know, it's obviously the one with the divots is you normally take your sandbag. Most carts now have sand in them. I think my a little bit of an issue I've got with divots again with carts and the rest of it is often you get dropped off with your club. You know, you hit a shot and you're like, oh, am I really gonna like talking about pace of play, which I imagine is everyone's pet peeve. Am I really gonna like make the guys wait behind me while I call the cart over to get a bit of sand to fill a divot? But again, I mean, now you sort of stuck between 2 aspects of etiquette. Just, you know, like, do I just leave this divot here? Hopefully someone else fills it in. So that's a bit of a catch-22 sometimes. And obviously raking bunkers we've covered. Sometimes it's also tough. I mean, Champagne Sports this last weekend, you take a rake with you in the cart. By the 6th hole, Oaks had forgotten the rakes on the bunkers. Now you're like not a rake in sight. And you're like trying to like do the best you can with your shoe, or you know you've got to walk around 5 different bunkers trying to find a rake. But I mean, okay, I'm making excuses for not raking bunkers. I mean, it is one of the easiest things to do is to take the rake into the bunker with you, play your shot,
and probably one of the most important in terms of actually being stymied.
Correct.
I mean, you get to a bunker and your ball's in someone's flipping foot mark, and it's a deep foot mark because they've wedge themselves down. It is probably the one etiquette thing that makes sense to carry forward. And I hear you on Champagne Sports. It's the worst thing having that frickin' rake that doesn't fit properly in the cart.
Put sand all over your bag when you put it back in.
It's the worst part. I love Champagne Sports, but that's certainly something they can improve on. But that's the one thing that I think has to happen.
But also fixing pitch marks, I think, to that point as well, because it's got a direct impact on everyone's game coming past you. I mean, or fixing divots if you don't have like a placing rule on the fairway. I mean, if you land in someone's divot that they haven't filled in, I mean, your ball's going to be attracted to the hole. So yeah, I think course maintenance, those aspects, you can certainly see the importance in doing it. But I think let's quickly move on because we've got quite a lot of other aspects to get to. So I'm going to go on to the distractions portion of it. And what I've got here, let me just quickly read through them and then you guys can pick one and comment on it or give me a story about one. So I've got noise on backswings, movements on someone's backswing, shadows, phone etiquette, speakers and drinks on the golf course. So just one for me is obviously the noise and movement on the backswings. I did say I was going to shout out my brother on this one like I normally do. It's a case of probably
that's Sean de Villiers.
Yeah, Sean.
Just to confirm.
So Sean is probably the biggest contradiction on this one, because if he's playing even like slightly badly, he will actively try and fart in your backswing, and he's like played his shots, didn't hit the greatest drive, so he'll sit there like right behind you, just like swinging his driver, like practice swinging. You trying to putt.
Packet of chips.
Yeah, you're opening a packet of chips. You trying to putt, and he's sitting there like putting on the other side of the green, trying to get a stroke right, even though he's your partner and should be helping you read the putts. But God, if it is Sean that's putting or chipping or hitting a drive, he's like that doll robot from Squid Games. You know, the red light, green light doll. And like one movement or one like slight sound. I mean, if you breathe too loudly, the one time he shat on me because the flag was fluttering in the wind when I was holding the flag on the green. I'm like, Sean, I don't know how you're going to play golf. There's always going to be some dog barking in the background. But
on that point, Sean's come a long way from when we first started playing with Sean, where I remember saying to like Nara and I were on a golf cart, usually playing against the de Villiers brothers, and there was a moment where like when Sean was playing a tee shot, you froze. It didn't. If you were mid walk, you froze for however long it took Sean to play. Like you couldn't do anything. You couldn't like blow your nose. You couldn't rub your nose. You couldn't do anything. So he has come a long way.
Yeah.
But it's also quite classic when it comes to Sean. Let's be honest, because if a dog barks, everyone hears it because it's deadly silent. If it's a great shot, no one talks about it. If it's a bad shot, he's like, that fucking dog.
Yeah. but that's it. And I mean, I think, yes, he is hilarious in that thing. Because it's almost like I'm like, Sean, you're concentrating so much on everything being still and quiet. Like, you are going to hear like the random hardy-dar. Like, rather just like you've got to go in with that like relaxed mindset that if someone moves, or you can sort of hear them talking, as long as Oaks aren't like shouting on your backswing, like quiet shouting. But if there's like general chatter, I would rather that just carried on and let me play my shot than like I'm about to take a backswing and everyone felt dead quiet. But yeah, I mean, obviously the etiquette is not to move not to stand behind someone. You normally, I'm trying to think, on the tee box you stand in front of them, hey, on the tee box where they.
Because you don't want to get hit.
Yes, you don't want
if
to
you're standing
be
behind, you
correct.
get smacked to the club.
The shadows. The shadows are the other one. Fuad, do you know about shadows?
I was gonna ask now. I mean, even with what you talked about I never know where to stand when someone tees off. I normally stand.
So you should stand pretty much in front of them and slightly back. So logically, you can't get hit by a ball, which is not necessarily the case when I'm playing, but that's the logic, and you can't get hit by a golf club.
So like they can see you while they're eating.
But
so not directly to the
peripheral.
side of them, definitely not in front of them, like sort of behind to the right.
But not behind their back. So the idea is that you standing. What's the word? If you addressing your golf ball, and that's
it's like a
standing like 45 degrees in front of them,
like 5 o'clock.
Yeah. And then the shadows, Fuad?
I don't know what the effect is of the shadows. I mean, I putted one day, I hit my shot one day, and I can't remember, someone asked me or said sorry about the shadow. I said, what are you talking about? It doesn't bother me, but I've had many instances where Jacques putts, or I think Sean as well once, where I stood, because I wanted to see how they putt the ball and what the green is going to do, and my shadow was in the way. And they said to me, just move your shadow. And to this day, I don't understand what the effect of the shadow is.
So again, I think it just comes down to distraction. I think you're sort of sitting there looking at your line, and your eyes maybe move to a shadow, or like as you're about to play, and you move, let's say even a slight movement, you can see that shadow moving, and it might just break your concentration a bit. But I know that, again, like shadows, there's more than one occasion I've seen Sean do like the pincer shadow like towards someone's golf ball while they're about to tee off, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Most of the time, guys,
Parrot. You've done the parrot.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I suppose maybe there's a case to be made to say, well, look, if there's a shadow on a green in your line, then maybe you're reading like a slope or something wrong. But I think more to do with the fact that it's distracting if your shadow moves while they're taking a swing. Phone etiquette, guys. Have you played two things? People whose phones aren't on silence, and then the second one is guys who are on their phones, like talking on their phones during golf. Yeah, I must say this is quite a big one for me. I try my best, and it's not always the case, to sort of put my phone away in the bag, and then you check it at halfway. But often, if you're in a cart, it sits at the front of your cart, and even if it's on silence, you can still hear it sometimes vibrating in the cart. Again, I think that goes to distractions, but also I think to the enjoyability of the round with the guys that you're playing with, because you want to have sort of their undivided attention as well. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on general phone etiquette on the course?
I mean, for me also, I mean, when I play with someone, generally I like to be at the golf, not on my phone. I mean, we all understand we have families, and sometimes you're forced to look at your phone or to reply to a message. But I think generally, I'm not bad with phone etiquette. I normally put my phone on silent or put it away. I think I've had a few indiscretions, but generally I think this is one of the etiquette or rules that I tend to keep to most of the time. So I don't have a big issue with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm quite bad on my phone if we're playing a midweek round and it's work time, because I am getting calls or having to make calls or emails and that kind of stuff. I think on the weekend it's fun. Never actually played with someone that's particularly bad with that.
I played with Justin Hotz. He was on his phone the whole front nine. I think he would hit two balls.
Was it during work though?
No, it was a Saturday.
Oh, okay.
But I think it was when he was getting his like company properly off the ground, and I think on Saturday they did a lot of that their work. But like the front nine, he would hit two balls OB, and then he would just spend the whole hole on the phone. Like I don't think I said a single word to him that front nine, other than
that's not like I don't mind people that check their phone every now and then. The music thing, like if you at like a bachelor's party or something like that, it's fine. If you're playing Twilight, I think it's fine. I'm not a huge fan of like going out playing golf with your mates and having like a speaker booming on your golf cart. Like I'm not a huge fan of that, to be honest. It doesn't really irk me, but I wouldn't choose to do it myself.
So I think the speakers on during golf, it depends on the type of round that you're playing. I mean, as you said, if it's Twilight or even if it's like a Sunday afternoon with drinks and the rest of it. But I don't ever think that your speaker should be loud enough that other people are hearing it. So other four balls. So I would always say to the four ball, do you guys mind if I play some music? I mean, I'm not going to do it on a Saturday morning competition, or if you're playing semi-serious golf, like I wouldn't bring my speaker, but it's also like a Sunday afternoon if you've got a couple of drinks out to have like a bit of a
I think it's
speaker
dependent on the context.
100%. But there's some guys who like no speakers. I mean, if you look at Gowrie, the Oaks are like, you're not allowed to bring drinks onto the course, which I mean again goes to the revenant sort of nature of Gowrie.
Shout out to that.
but again, like I suppose for the purists, it's like no, you must listen to nature and you must drink water or whiskey.
Which I mean, maybe not on the drink side, but on you are out there and trying to, especially if it's like a nice day or something, I mean, if you're playing like Augusta Chicken Run, then music is very much welcomed, you know, but like for the most part, I would say no.
So I mean, I would be saying rule of thumb with speakers. Look, with drinks, I don't think anyone's going to be calling you out for cracking a beer on the golf course. In fact, I think probably the opposite is true there. But in terms of speakers, I think the general rule is to look at the context that you're playing. Is it a social game or is it like a bit of a more serious competition? And if it's a social game, to say to your playing partners, look, do you mind if I can put some music on and then keep it at a reasonable volume? That's not going to sort of distract everyone.
I think the same thing with drinks. I mean, it's completely dependent on the context. I mean, for me, it's the best setting to have a beer with the oak in your golf cart or the other golf cart and, hey, Fuad, are you done with your beer? Do you want another one? And obviously, it then can go over to, situations like Fuad and I lying on the green after like 16 holes because we're completely out of the day that we're playing in and we've had like 40,000 beers. But that was a round table golf day. So, I mean, that's fine. So, yeah, I think both of them, Jacques, you're right. Like, it's the context and it's what the other guys are doing in your 4-ball and is it slowing you down, yes or no, and all of those kinds of things. So, I think there is a place for it.
Guys, moving on to the, I wouldn't say more controversial ones, but ones that maybe are not as obvious and are context specific in the form of the game. The first one I'm going to deal with is ready golf and who tees first. The rules were changed recently, where everyone is encouraged now to play ready golf, which I think is a great change. I still think there are a lot of people who don't do it, which is bad. Fuad, I'm going to call you out. You guilty of like walking to your ball, looking at it, walking back to the cart, looking at a couple of clubs, walking to your ball. Where I think the idea is that you sort of you take what clubs you think you're going to use out of your bag. You look at it, you put the club aside, and then you play. Rather than like it sounds like a small amount, but you probably cut 30 seconds out of your pre-shot routine. And then the other thing is to say with Oaks and. No offense, Fuad, but you're normally hitting a 2-iron off, so you're the shortest. So you don't have the benefit of waiting for someone behind you to play. So often you can sit there and make that decision while someone behind you is playing, so that when it is your turn to hit, you're ready to hit, rather than, sitting on your phone or like daydreaming. Then it's your turn to hit. 3 Oaks have hit after you, and now you start looking at the yardage and what club to hit. But
does he get a rebuttal attempt?
Do you want a rebuttal?
I need to, because you've known me for a while now, and I play golf. For me, it's all about superstition. It's up to what shirt I have on, what socks I have on. I mean, even underpants sometimes, depending on how shit I played the previous round. Then I'm convinced that underpants, I'm not wearing it again. So I mean, the same with the swing. If I don't do certain things when I go up to my ball or when I hit the ball or the way I approach, I mean, for me, already in my head, I'm out of the cell. So, I mean, you saying that now, it puts me in a spin for Sunday now.
Well, maybe this is
But
all
I've been
part
there
of it.
for it, and I used to take a long time, and Jacques will sort of confirm this, that I was in your headspace, and I didn't know that it was taking a long time. And I would do exactly like, I had to do this, had to do that, had to do this amount of practice swings, until Jacques it was that called me out one day via...
I think Simon had called you out.
No, Simon had mentioned something to you, yes. and you had said something to me. And actually on that, I remember the round and I remember the hole at Cotswold. It was actually one hole where it wasn't my fault, but I'd taken the point because it was correct. And since then, I've shortened it. And it's that. You take a club, no practice swings. I'm not good enough for
There's nothing wrong with practice swings. I think it's not like taking excessive practice swings.
But I'm not good enough for a practice swing anyway. I mean, let's be honest. Otherwise, you get that scenario where you have a practice swing, you're like, oh, that was perfect. And then you shank your ball and you're like, oh, fuck, I should have hit it the first time. So, I mean, it's an opportunity to be like, okay, can I quicken this up without stuffing up my game? Yeah. And if so, do it.
But I must say, I think I was worse in the beginning, because I remember in the beginning, Jacques said to me once, like, Fuad, you must just play a bit faster, speed up.
Well, I remember the one. I think I think it was just you and I. Luckily, there was no one behind us, and I think you made that point, which is fair, but sort of to an extent. But I think it was on the 17th at Cotswold, and you had a very difficult shot. But God, you took about 15 minutes to play that shot. I was like, I think I aged in that period.
So I mean, just to give you context, what I used to do is I had to take 2 practice swings, like to my left of the ball, and then I had to look at least 3 times to where I'm hitting, and then a couple of seconds to look at the ball, and then eventually I'll hit. But it's much shorter
I think you and Rafael Nadal need to have some psychological testing or sessions or something.
Well, the worst is that,
Do you
remember,
scratch your bum before you hit your shot?
I want everyone to bear in mind that Fuad is still a 27 handicapper, and this was his routine for every shot. So in an oak shooting over 100 and doing that for every shot, it's long. I mean, if you're shooting like 72 and doing that, you're probably on pace. But you're shooting an additional like 30 shots and doing
But
sometimes 40.
It does take someone to call you out. I remember playing up at Gowrie once or whatever with Tim Smith. Shout out Salty. And we were having a few beers afterwards, and he said he didn't say it nastily or anything. He's just like, "Geez, Hoff, you do quite a few things before you hit the ball." And I was like, "Okay, I take the cue. You know, I need to speed this up."
That's exactly the way Jacques says things to me sometimes, where I think, okay, Jacques, I'll improve. But that's exactly the way I feel so cuck afterwards. But then, I mean, it's done.
But again, like, and this goes to the initial point that we made, where if someone doesn't say it to you, you don't even know that you're doing anything wrong. So I mean, a lot of the times, like, you're not trying to say it to be a dick. And I mean, even like we were saying at Club Champs, the way that the guy approached it is probably not a dick way at all to have approached it. To be like, look, technically you shouldn't have done that, but just don't do it again.
But the problem is you will get dicks, and they will call you out in a horrible way. And if one of your best mates is calling you out and that's putting you in a spin, holy shit! Wait until you're in a competition and a dickhead does that. And I've had that at Kloof, playing as a junior. And someone called me out correctly, but the way that they called me out was just the worst possible thing. And I'd been doing, I can't even remember what it was, something to do with lining up putts or something like that. I'd been doing it all day, and he was beating me all day. He didn't mention a thing. And when the tide turned and he started playing badly, that's when he became nasty. And I remember, it was quite upsetting actually. And I think I lost that match pretty much because of that. Also shout out Ryder Mug when I placed my ball on the edge of the green, and the guys didn't call me out when I did it. They waited for me to win the hole and then called me out. And I thought that was really bad.
Well, let's quickly, because I think we're hitting the halfway mark here, and we've still got to get through quite a lot. The only other thing I wanted to say about whose honor it was on the box, obviously the etiquette is to say if you won the previous hole, that it's your box to hit, and if you halve it, then it's whoever won the hole before that. But I think the etiquette with ready golf these days is to say to someone, look, even if you are ready to play and you can see the guy marking, do you mind if I tee off? Like, obviously, if it's your box to tee off, you just go off and tee. But I don't think in this day and age, if you've got an open fairway ahead of you, you should be like waiting for the guy to finish up in the cart, then like get to the box and then tee off. So I think that's changed quite a lot from where it used to be in terms of like order of play, like who's got the honor. I think that's become a lot more flexible with the pace of play changes. Have you had any issues with that, Word?
Apparently I have. But
why? Have you stolen people's boxes?
I think I have, but it's really, I think not knowing. I just took it as, what, guys are still fiddling in their carts and whatever. I mean, I can go ahead and hit. But I mean, playing with you guys now, like But
that is the right way to do it. So what I'm not trying to by any means try and motivate people to say like stand around the box like if it's like waiting for someone.
It's the worst thing. Like, whose turn is it? Oh, no. And then you stand up, you tee your ball up, and they go, no, you don't have the honor. And you're like, come on. We're trying to get to the green here as quickly as possible. Just hit the ball.
Yeah. So, I agree. I think the next one is, so we're talking about distractions. Okay, so now we're talking protecting the field. So for me, this is an interesting one. So protecting the field for me is an etiquette, but it also sort of borders on like rules where you're talking about like if you're playing a Saturday comp and you've got better ball, like the gimme putt situation. Like you might be having a little internal.
This is a Fuad masterclass, yeah.
So the gimme putt's obviously where it's within, I don't know, a foot. Like it's a foregone conclusion that you're gonna make the putt and you sort of scoop it up. Now,
there's a couple of scenarios there. Though.
I was gonna say personally, I've got no issue with someone scooping literally a tap in. And I've got no issue with gimmies if it's a match play and that's what you're playing. Like, then you can give whatever you like. I've also got no issue with, again, if it's not individual. So let's say it's a better ball and your partner's in for 3 and, you missed the putts and your 2 points are coming back, is going to make no difference to the field. It can be a 4 or a 5 footer. Yeah. I'm like, take it away. It doesn't actually make any difference. 100%. It's going to just waste time having you line up your putts and, make it. But I think it gets a bit tricky where your putt does count for something and you scoop it. And then it's super awkward where someone scoops their putt and you're like, oh, I didn't really give it to you.
They miss and they scoop it before the ball's even stopped.
Yeah, just like hit it backhanded and be like, oh, I had that, didn't I? And you're like, oh, well, you didn't.
Yeah. So I think where Fuad gets a bit murky is Fuad is notorious for not giving putts, no matter how close it is, but then asking for putts when he's somewhat in range of a gimme. Like you'll look up and you'll be like, come on, Hoff, can I have that? My putt will be inside his. I'll give it to him and he'll make me putt.
Look, I don't think I asked for a lot. I probably...
You definitely used to ask for a lot.
Yeah, I used to, but not anymore. I mean, since playing like more competitively, I mean, I must say if it's not John Mark, I don't want to say motivating me to give a putt to someone. I mean, there's been a few times that he said to me, "Fuad, are you fine? We give it to them." And sometimes I pretended I'm not hearing what he's saying, and then he would ask again, and then eventually I would say, okay, that's fine. But for me in general, I don't like giving putts when it's match play. I don't care where it is, because I've had a bad experience with this. On the 4th at Cotswold, I was probably almost in gimme range for 4, and I missed the putt to the left. It looped out. I came back for 5, ended up 6 for 2. So after that happened, I said to myself, "There's no way I'm giving putts anymore."
But okay, so but for it again, as a high handicapper, I think it's context specific. My dad had the yips. My brother and I were giving each other putts left, right, and center, and he was getting so pissed off with us because we weren't giving him any putts, and he kept on missing. And I think one of the biggest lessons I learned was actually from GB Craig. And I used to actually be a bit of a nightmare on the golf course. I used to sulk and get grumpy if I wasn't playing well and be bleak if someone didn't give me a putt. And I remember GB the one time didn't give me a putt, which I thought should be a gimme. And yes, as I proceeded to sulk. And he came to me and he said, "Look, Jacques, you missed the putt. Like, why would I give you a putt that you missed?" And I think for me...
Or that you could potentially miss.
Well, exactly. But I think for me...
Like a gimme is meant to be the putt that you cannot miss.
Yes, and even if you're like, no, I'd like to see that, you shouldn't be standing up there being, oh, I can't believe I have to putt that. You're like, okay, cool. Like, stand up there and putt it in. Or miss it and then be like, yeah, fair enough, it wasn't a gimme. And I think that mindset changed to not expecting to get given putts. Like, I mean, now when I play... I'm expecting guys to make me putt everything. I mean, obviously, I'll walk slowly to like a gimme-ish length putt.
Or make a comment like, oh, these other groups got laryngitis or something like that.
No, but I wouldn't do that because I think that's like making that sort of a comment.
You can say it afterwards.
Even then, I'm like, going back to what Juby said, is like, if they want you to putt it, you must putt it. Like,
well, I suppose it depends on context. Like, if you've been giving them putts and your ball is inside that range, then it can become... It can irk you.
But then it gets to like the give rule. So, and again, like we had a situation, Sean and I, where we were playing and the guys were like, give. And again, like I looked at it and I was like, flipping, take it and run. Like Sean was the higher handicapper. Look, Sean's a good putter, so I've got no doubt that he would have made it. But I was also like, we were up in that time in the match and I was like, if we can extend our lead like with a half, if you know what I mean, like with less holes to play, I was like, let's run.
Yeah, I suppose the one... For me, it doesn't particularly faze me, to be honest, whether someone asks for putts, doesn't ask for putts, someone gives me putts. The one that irks me, and we've seen it pretty regularly with recent games, where you haven't given someone a putt. It's a lengthy putt. They miss it and they scoop it. And if you're the guy doing the scoring, you don't know what to do.
Yeah. What do you say? Well, like, what did you get?
7? Is this like an 8? And you don't want to ruin the atmosphere of the game by being like, listen, bud, like, I didn't give you that putt because it was like a 3-meter putt and you missed it and it went way past and you just scooped the ball. Like, I don't know what to give you.
So for me, like in general,
you don't do that, Fuad, which is good.
Like
for the record, that person is not Fuad.
The one thing for me is sometimes, especially in match play, and I understand there's some putts that don't count. But for me, sometimes I had an issue an instance where I was out of gimme distance and my partner was in already for the half. And
no, but then you can take it.
No, but for me, I mean, the big thing for me there is because I'm only starting to break 100 now. I do not want the gimme putt that allowed me to break 100.
Fair enough. So I actually did that as well to Sean. When it was his first time to break 80, he was playing at Kloof. And he was on track to shoot a 79. And he had a couple of putts in gimme range. And I said to Sean, look, I could give that to you, but you're not going to feel like you've broken 80 properly. Like, especially when you're on the cusp and you've been given like your partner's in and you've got a 4-footer. I'm like, you're going to feel a lot better if you actually putt all those in.
The other one is birdies.
100%.
Birdies
I was going to
and
mention
eagles.
that.
Like, you got to putt a birdie or an eagle, like, irrespective
even if
of
it's a
how
tap
close
in.
you are. 100%. Like, that you can't, depending on the person, and I speak
Yeah, you should
predominantly
yourself.
about myself here, is also par putts. You know, like, if a par is, like,
Big for
me,
you.
that's a huge thing, like, par putt. I don't get too many birdie opportunities, so, you know, I would putt a birdie myself irrespective. But even some pars, like, putt the par, you know.
No, I'm exactly the same for me. I mean, a par is a big thing for me, being so high handicap.
Well, I suppose you look at the points maybe that you're scoring to say, like, if you're looking at a 3-pointer or a 4-pointer, you know, like a par sometimes for you is a lot of times is a 4-pointer.
And for your card. But to your point, like, if you're having a shocker of a day and your partner's in for the points and you're a little bit out of gimme range, like, okay, take the putt. You know, let's move on, guys.
Yeah. But as you say, if you're having like a
Great
personal
day.
best round, like you want to almost like putt out so that you make it a...
I mean, it's unlikely if you're putting for par that your partner's in for anything better. I mean, circumstances are slim.
Fuad, I want to ask you a question. Have you celebrated a cuck shot by your opponents?
Yes. I'll be very honest. I mean, sometimes I don't, like, even in match play, I don't get the point in saying to an opponent, good shot. Because, I mean, it just means that we're losing if they play. No, that's just my competitive nature, like, or a very good putt to say, no, good putt. Even when guys say to me, and I don't know if you've realized, like, when guys say to me, like, good shot or good putt, I sometimes think, why? We're beating you if I'm playing good. So that's just for me. I don't get it.
It's very, very social playing with Fuad. He won't say good putt and he celebrates your bad shots.
Asks you for gimmies and doesn't give you any.
Yeah, this sounds like a ball. Doesn't rake bunkers, stands in your lines, doesn't know what the issue with the shadow is.
Good to have a beer with a man, though.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best part for me. Like, having a beer on the golf course. I mean, depending how shit I play, I mean, it might
might be the only good part of the
day. Or it might go over to brandy and cokes. I mean, depending how bad it is.
So if it is like a highly competitive match, and I mean the etiquette for those who haven't picked up is obviously not, you can celebrate your good shot, but the idea is never to celebrate someone's bad shots. But shit, it is difficult not to celebrate a bad shot when you're like, you know, close to winning or something, and someone, like, I don't know, leaves it in the bunker or, you know, misses a tap and you're like, yes, and then you're under your breath.
So Jacques, for me, it's not a lot. I won't do it externally, like on the inside, or I'll just end up walking to the cart and like
smiling.
But I won't let them see it.
Yeah. But I think that's the point. I mean, like, you don't want to be outwardly, you know, celebrating someone's misfortune. So I think that was the one. The other one, etiquette, guys, and I've learned this, Hoff, I think you can attest that I've come a long way, is if you're playing badly is to not sulk on the course, or even worse than sulking on the course is to, like, throw a tantrum. God, it's so awkward for everyone around you. I mean, I've played with Oaks who've, like, thrown clubs into trees and the rest of it, and you, like, don't know where to stand.
Look,
like,
it's for me, it's fine if you've hit a bad shot to react to that bad shot. But that reaction needs to be capped. Like, don't let that affect other Oaks.
Yeah.
Like, throw your club, hit your bag, do whatever you want for that bad shot or that missed putt. Swear it, I don't care about that, you know. Shout out Fidget for choice language on the golf course. But you know, I don't have an issue with that. But where, like you say, you then get back to your cart, you've got your partner in your cart with you, and now you're not talking, or, you know, you don't want to do this, or, you know, that's where it becomes shit, because now it's affecting the four ball.
Yeah.
And look, I'm nowhere near a good enough golfer to have ever had a round that really goes to plan. So I've had to come to terms with this very, very fast. And being out there is more fun than the golf itself for me. And Fuad's point, you know, cracking a beer with your partner, irrespective of whether you're playing badly or not, is the best part. But yes, it's shit. And you used to be horrible, Jacques. That, like, to the point where you get there late and you're like, who am I sharing a golf cart with? Like, oh, fuck, Jacques. You know, let's hope that he's having a good day. So yeah, I mean, to say that you've come a long way is an understatement. But yes, it's horrible playing in that kind of environment. And we've, in work context, played in a couple of four balls where we've had guys who have also lost their shit.
Yeah.
and you don't know what to do. You don't know what to say.
It's super awkward.
It's the worst.
I never know what to do. Like, do I pat this guy on the back or or say it's going to be fine, or what do you do? Or
do you ignore him?
Or do you just keep quiet? But then when you keep quiet, I mean, it's
awkward silence.
It's awkward silence, or what do you say?
Or the worst is if like someone like hits one off the planet and they're like having a tantrum. You're like, connection was good though. Like,
yeah, just you need to go maybe from the inside to the outside, and you're like, shut the up.
I mean, for me, the worst thing is like with stuff like that is where you're playing badly. Like, I can take playing badly. Like, I can shoot 112, I can shoot 114. For me, the best part of the day then is I can still drink a beer. But the one thing that I know I'm not like I'm not good enough to demand anything. But the one thing that I fucking hated, like when you play a bad shot and you had consecutive holes where you've played badly, where guys say to you, take your time. It's okay. take your time. I hate it.
Yeah, or stand closer to the ball. Yeah. Stand further away. Now your head's spinning.
Yeah. Well, at least now I know what to do next time I play match play with Fuad. If he doesn't give me putts, then I'm just going to be like,
well, I mean, my worst playing with Jacques as a partner in like a competitive game. And it's not because you're actually trying to get the best out of me, but it has the opposite effect. Is Hoff, this is your stroke hole, eh?
Yeah.
So just make sure you keep it in play. And you're like, if I was good enough to just make sure that I keep it in play, trust me, I'd be a lot better than I am.
But again, that's like my mindset, and I know Fuad, you think the same. And this is where it differs, because I like, my headspace is like, okay, it's my stroke hole. I'm going to play it conservatively so I can get a point out of this. Whereas, as you're saying, what I've basically communicated to you is like, don't stuff this up. And like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm like, yeah, play it conservatively. You've got a lot of shots here. And like in Hoff's mind, he's like, Jacques, just put all the pressure on.
Well, the thing is, I don't have a conservative, non-conservative switch. It's hit the ball, trying to hit it straight, And by telling me that, you're making me actually focus more on my swing, which means this is probably going to go more towards 90 than 1.8.
But I mean, also Jacques puts you under so much pressure when you catch on cuck, you can see the disappointment in his face.
Yeah, I'm still bad at that, and this is why I play individual sports and not like team sports.
I remember one specifically at VCC where my ball was like popped up in the rough on the side of the green, and you're like, just make sure you don't hit under it. And I'm like, I have no idea how to do that, And then I did hit under it, and Jacques was like, I told you not to hit under it. And I'm like,
I wasn't trying to.
If I knew how to hit that shot, I wouldn't have hit under it. So, yeah, it can go both ways, I guess.
Just let's quickly move along. Tending the flag, I don't think we need to spend too much time on that one. Obviously, if you're the first one there or closest to the flag, you ask the guys. I mean, normally you'd have to take it out. With the rule change, the guys can still have it in. So, I mean, generally you just say, everyone happy with it out. You might have someone say, I want it in which case that oak must go and take the flag out for everyone else. But for the most part, first one up there, pull the flag out, and first one to putt in should be the one holding the flag and putting it back in afterwards. But we know all too well that sometimes oaks will like hit a bad putt, like grab their ball and go back to the cart. Not good etiquette. I think that one's pretty straightforward. I did laugh. I just wanted to tell you a quick story about my Butts and my dad, who are like yin and yang on the golf course. My brother said to my dad, don't you just want to pull the flag? And my dad is like, why didn't you say please? So I was like, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say please like in that context. So next hole, I was like, Dad, do you want me to pull the flag for you here? He's like, yeah. I said, where's your please and thank you? So I think he realized that he had been got. But I don't think we need to spend too much time on tending the flag. The one I wanted to get to, which is, I don't know if it's etiquette related, but I think it is, and it can be awkward, is having a bet on the tee box, on the first tee box. I mean, I think the general bet is that 10-10, 20-10, which is $10 on the 9, $10 on the back 9, $20 on the game, and $10 on the units. That's a stockies bet, or you just say, $50 on the game, or whatever the case is.
It's the worst. Never understood units.
Yeah, units, and some people have different definitions of what units are. So it's generally easiest to either know what the units are when you make that bet, or just to remove the units from the bet completely.
Fuad, units?
I have an idea. Like normally when I played VCC, I just accept whatever is said, because for me, normally when we play morning school at VCC, like Ken tells me stuff where, I mean, what did he tell me the one time about a freshie? And I was saying to him, Ken, what are you talking about? I've never heard about that.
I'm exactly the same as you. It's like, oh, Carl, you won the units. Like, okay. Or, all right, well, we won the units. Like, okay, whatever that means.
Okay, so generally the units are you get a unit for hitting closest on a par 3, but you have to be on the green. So if no one's on the green, that unit carries through to the next par 3. You get a unit for a sandy. Now, there's controversy about what that definition means, whether that is up and down from a greenside bunker or whether that is any bunker. So often you would hit it in a fairway bunker, you'd get it onto the green later, still make a par. For me, that's you've made a par from the sand. It still counts. So anyway, sandies are units, and then the last one is birdies. And then all of those added together will give you your units.
Way too much to remember. Like trying to score, trying to win, trying to get a good score on my stroke hole, and now I've got to remember units as well.
Okay, but we were getting to the bets. So for me, bets can be awkward. I mean, we played Fuad recently where, I was saying let's have a rumbler bets on this, and one guy didn't drink. Now, I didn't know the guys that well, but, fair enough, like, okay, we're not obviously going to do that bet. Then you say, okay, we'll pay for $100 or whatever the case is. But I think the bets need to be clear before the round starts, or by agreement, midway through the round. The other thing that we've had a debate on is the press. So obviously the press means you've got a couple holes left. The match is finished. Let's call it 5 and 4, and the guys say, the guys who've lost say we're going to press. Now the question is, in terms of etiquette, are you obliged to accept the press, the double or nothing, or can you say we're not going to play for the double or nothing? Now the etiquette generally for me is you have to accept the press if the losing team wants to press. I think it also makes it more fun because there's more to play for in terms of those bets, but I don't know if you guys have a differing opinion of that. Do you think as the winning team you can say, no, we're going to take $100 and run, so stuff you in your press?
I never mind it. I always end up losing that press. I'm the one that loses the match, and then at the end say to Jacques, where did we play? Drake Gardens last time, or Champagne? I can't remember. Drake, where I said to Jacques, no, I'm going to press. I think I ended up with 2 rumblers. The one I still have to take because that, to this day, I mean, that one, it was, I didn't survive that one. So, I mean, but still, I like pressing. For me, it's like, especially if you play with mates, it's fun. So I honestly don't mind it.
I get a bit confused by the press, to be honest. Like, you've made a bet. It's 18 holes. Like, you either win or you lose. So, like, if you're in a social setting with 3 other oaks that you know quite closely or whatever, I don't mind it. But I don't know how the press can be something that you have to accept when you've already made a bet to win over 18 holes, and now you've got to press because on hole 15 you've lost. Like, I understand.
No, so if you've lost, you don't have to press. So if you,
I know you don't have to, but the whole like concept is like a little bit.
No. So if you like playing Supercut golf and like you saying as the losing team, like we don't want to lose more money, like we're not going to press. But I'm saying if you're the winning team and someone presses as the winning team,
no, that's exactly what I'm saying. The whole concept is like you've lost or you've won. That's the end of it. If it's just like a for fun thing, okay, no problem. But like, I don't know. I don't think the press should be like a thing, to be honest. Like you've made the bet, you've either won the bet or you've lost the bet. That's it.
Yeah, but I mean, I suppose the thing is that to keep it interesting, to say, okay, well, we want to, we've got 4 holes left. If you want to keep the match fasty, or if you're having a good competition, to say, right,
like one more for the ultimate champ.
That's exactly what it's like. Gents, I think we've done well. I've got one more here, paying for lunch and drinks. I think the etiquette is if you've won the bets, you should be buying the drinks afterwards, unless the bet was to buy the drinks. If you've taken the other guy's money, the least you can do is then buy them the drinks after. I don't know if anyone's got any issues with that one. I think it's pretty straightforward.
I think most of the matches we play is 4 drinks. So loser, buys breakfast or lunch, depending what time you're playing, and then drinks after it. So I think if it's not that, then I would agree with that. I wouldn't have an issue. Yeah,
for me, it's never an issue. I mean, it's generally, I've seen like whoever gets to the...
Thought Fuad was going to say, I generally just put it on the work card.
I was thinking the same thing.
Whoever gets there, just pays. So...
gents, is there any big etiquette faux pas that I'm missing here?
There's one more thing you forgot.
Yes.
Touching your ball after you've removed the marker. Because for me, how I'm about that.
Yeah.
Because I sometimes stand over my ball and I see the line on the ball and I know that putt's not going in. It's not aligned properly.
Look, I think again it's context specific. I mean, if you're playing a competition, it's the same as marking your ball in the fairway. So I mean, you normally put your tee in if there's a club placing. Put your tee in, find a little tuft or find a piece of grass if you're playing a Ladysmith. But if you're playing like a twilight round or whatever, there's nothing wrong with. No one's going to call you out for like remarking your ball on the green or like moving your ball.
I don't know if I've ever seen you with a marker.
No. I have 5 markers now.
I know.
But Jacques says like social play, no one will call. He's called me out a few times.
No, but I'm doing that for this
doing
exact purpose, so that when it comes to competition time, that like Oaks are going to call you out. Got to practice like you play.
Jeez, and you're so pressurized when you.
Although the fairway one's a little bit like ridiculous. Come on. Like,
No.
trying to get a tee out of your freaking bag or whatever.
I hear you, but again, like I'm saying, if you're playing a competition, then the Oaks are like, no, you must. If you're going to mark your ball,
I understand marking a ball on a green, but the fairway is a bit ridiculous. Like,
yeah, look, I mean, it's seldom that guys will call you off or call you out on the fairway one, but again, rather safe than sorry.
yeah. Or what about a nod to a few gentlemen that we played with before, Mr. Sexton and Mr. Else, who
Changed balls.
2 faux pas. One is teeing it up in the drop zone, which was amazing that they found a tee in the ground and happened to drop it perfectly on that tee on the 10th at Cotswold. And the other was
that was at Zimbabwe. The second one was Zimbabwe.
On the fairway. Instead of placing, they were placing their ball, but they were picking up the ball, replacing it with another ball. The worst part is they were starting the shot or the hole with like a Pro V1 and replacing it with like a Tony Penner.
Yeah, it was like, okay, is this shot over water? Okay, well, let me just mark my ball, take the Pro V1 out of play, and put a Tony
Penner. Put this Max Fly noodle down.
Are you not allowed to change your ball?
Not during a hole. I mean, if you finish a hole, you can change your ball between holes, but you can't change balls mid-hole.
But what's wrong with that? If I play from this exact spot with a different ball,
no,
but what's the problem?
So the issue is that you can, I mean, the different balls play differently. So I mean, you could be like, right now I want to hit a little spinny chip around the green, so I'm going to take my Pinnacle out of play and play a soft Pro V1, and then I don't want to drive with that.
I can't play spinny chip, so it shouldn't really apply to me. I mean,
well, look, I mean, that's got nothing to do with etiquette. That's the rule. So,
but I mean, it can, because to Jacques' point, your tee shot's over water, you take a shit ball out your bag, you get it over the water, now you got a hybrid into the green, so you replace it with like a Titleist Pro V or something like that. Even for us shit golfers, that can make a difference. So I understand that one.
You can take a ball out of play during a hole if it's damaged, yes. But that's the only time.
Yeah. Johan Else's Tony Penner wasn't damaged.
No.
That we're aware of.
I was about to say it was damaged, but I mean, I think that was just the state of those second-hand balls.
Well, that's the problem, is he was taking a brand new ball out of play and putting a Tony Penner in.
Exactly. You know that sound it makes when they hit it, like it was. All right, gents, I think that was a goodie. Shot Fuad for joining. Very interesting to get your insights, and I'm sure your head is going to be in a spin next time you're on the golf course, now knowing all of those etiquette aspects you need to be aware of.
Yeah, you're going to have an eagle eye on him when he's in a bunker to see how his motion of raking.
Guys, just to close out, I mean, with the bunkers, and this is really just to close out, like, I never managed to rake all my footprints simply because, I mean, if the bunker's like this, and I, like...
Yeah, there's a limit. There's a limit. There's a limit.
You got to try your best, though. It's not. You don't have to like Japanese in it. So
you can leave some marks, eh? I mean, like on the edge, like top edge.
You do your best. You do your best. Like, as long as you're making an effort or whatever, and you're not just walking away leaving trenches, then it's...
Yeah, I mean, that I don't do, but I mean, I sometimes leave some foot marks mid-bunker.
I'll take some photos and put it on the Instagram account next time Fuad plays. Hoffman, thank you very much, brother.
Thanks, gents.
Cheers, boys.
Thanks.